All right, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I am Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
And Sean, we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to kind of break away from. We mentioned this before. I got to come up with a more clever pun than breakaway. But we're going to talk a little bit about something that's pretty relevant this past week: Super Bowl.
Super Bowl ads.
Yeah,
because everybody talks about Super Bowl ads. I mean, you just. It's kind of, you have to do it.
Yeah, it's like the day after. That's the biggest water cooler topic, I'm sure. It's like, what was your favorite Super Bowl?
Well, it certainly wasn't the game this year.
Yeah. I think I was probably nodded off, maybe second half of the second quarter, maybe 3-0. Yeah, it was.
I think at halftime, what was it, 3-0 at halftime still?
Yeah.
And it was the second lowest scoring game in Super Bowl history at that point.
Yep.
So there's a 2-0 game, which was a safety, so that's even worse. So that would have been terrible to watch.
Yeah, that was not the spectacular offensive showing that a lot of people expected. So.
Yeah, especially after a year of high flying offenses.
Yeah.
There were so many big scoring, high score. I mean, we had some record setting.
Oh, it did.
Games.
And both of those teams looked like, the over under. I can only imagine that Vegas made a lot of money.
That they probably did. Absolutely.
So before we get into the ads, we have a special brew that you brought. So I'll let you
this
talk.
would be like Budweiser, since we are going to be talking Super Bowl ads.
Yeah.
Their version of a craft beer, really. So it's Budweiser that's aged a little bit in Jim Beam barrels.
Okay.
So it's called the Copper Lager. So it's their lager, but then throw in some.
I remember
coloring.
This is when you mentioned a few months back, actually, or a couple months back.
Yep.
And I still have yet to taste it, so this will be my first time.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and taste it. I mean, I love the packaging.
I do too.
Something about the label just looks very.
I like the
timeless.
bottles. Yeah, the bottles are really cool.
Got the shorty bottles.
Yeah, kind of remind me of the Red Stripe. Of course, I think Red Stripe's a little bit smaller, but
these are the original shorty size bottles that Budweiser packaged, 50 years ago or whatever.
That's cool. All right,
nice little reddish amber color, copper color, I guess. So, cheers.
Cheers. It's good. It wasn't quite what I expected. I was expecting more of kind of the stronger bourbon ale.
Yeah.
But this is not. It's good, but it's not as strong.
It's definitely still a lager for sure.
Yep.
But it's got a little bit more taste than just plain Budweiser. So I think it's a good. If you don't want to go super heavy with like a full craft beer, I think this is a good. And it's about half the price of a lot of the craft beers that we've tried. So.
Yeah, exactly. Much lighter than in the taste, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll ramp it up throughout the next couple of episodes.
Oh, we will.
Get up to a bourbon ale again.
I like it, though.
But I think it's funny. My son, he's 24, so we talk beer, and he's now gotten into scotch and whiskeys and stuff lately. So, but he did not like this at all. He absolutely hated it. So
yeah.
I think you just have to try it and see if it's something you like. It's not something I would go get all the time.
It doesn't have the once you take that initial sip, you're looking for something that's like that aftertaste right after that first sip, and I think you're expecting something, but you don't. It doesn't hit your palate.
Yeah, to me, it's just a richer lager. That's all. I mean, that's really all it is, and that's really all they claim it to be. It's just a copper lager, a little bit of that bourbon flavor, but not a lot. So if you're not big on craft beers and you kind of want to go that direction, you usually drink lagers or light beers. Then this is a really. This is
kind
choice.
of a way to kind of.
It's a gateway.
It's a gateway drug.
It's a gateway.
We're going to ease you into it.
I wonder if Budweiser is planning acquisitions of a lot of craft brews, and then this is their gateway.
It could be.
Who knows?
And you don't have to go to any special place. I mean, you said you can find this at most.
Yeah, this was off the shelf at the grocery store.
Yeah. So that's good.
Pretty much anywhere that sells Budweiser is going to have a couple of these 6-packs. They don't have, they've got 15 cases of Budweiser and Bud Light, and then they might have 3 of these on the shelf. But So
very good.
So, yeah. So let's talk
commercials.
Commercials.
So I have my list
of
my favorites, and so which should we just kind of go down the list of any commercial on our part that stood out? Because obviously Budweiser's going to be on that list.
Yeah, that was the top for me. So for me, the one that left the strongest impression, and I don't know if it's because I'm a copywriter and have done that, but the Bud Light corn syrup ad, stood out to me as like
the best.
Actually giving me some information about the brand that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And making me think, oh, that's kind of cool. Have I bought Bud Light? No. But I did buy Budweiser, so it goes to the bottom line either way.
That was at the top of my list too.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with them sponsoring our episode with our...
Yeah. Did you see the kind of the backlash online with all the...
I did not.
Yeah. So there's the corn farmers of America are very upset with Budweiser.
See, everybody's going to get upset. Everybody gets offended.
So the fact that they offended somebody, though, tells me that they did something right.
They did something right, yeah.
Because they polarized some people. And both Coors and who was the other one? Was it Michelob?
It was Miller Lite.
Miller, that's right.
Yeah.
Michelob was actually
because they said that was the first castle they went to, and they said, "No, we've already gotten our we've already gotten our corn."
So, so Coors and Miller had to defend themselves.
Oh yeah.
And then on Twitter,
that's some stealth stuff they did there. I mean, because on one hand they separated themselves. You know, we've talked about this many times in breakthrough advertising, compare and contrast. You know, we're over here. These guys over here are doing this.
Yep.
And not only that, they put their competition on the defensive.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think I've ever seen them do that in all the years I've been watching Super Bowl ads. They've never gone at the competition. Yeah. Like it's always been, just kind of a fluff piece.
Right.
Beer's fun, the magic fridge back in the day, all those different things, but they've never gone at the competition or differentiated themselves from the competition.
Yeah.
So to actually say this is how we're different, I think is good. And they even did a rebuttal in the King's voice on Twitter, like yesterday or today. They put a little picture of a scroll and they've written out copy in the King's voice about like the first line is "Yeesh, that escalated quickly," and it just kind of So they kind of pulled back a little bit, but in a very tongue-in-cheek way, and so I mean I think they're handling it well too.
Oh
like,
yeah,
they're staying in character, and they were like, we just wanted to give the corn syrup back to who it belonged to.
That's right, because we don't use it.
And that's what they said. We don't think there's anything wrong with corn, but we're not going to use it in our beer because our beer is high quality. Yeah. So they kind of took it back and didn't at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a
I think it's
smart
pretty
way.
Strong.
I think it is too. That was at the top of my list in terms of because I think it add that everybody talks about the creativity of commercials. The problem with it is there's a lot of creative commercials out there, but they're not memorable.
Right.
This one this one was memorable, but simply because the one thing they targeted, corn syrup, is like you're thinking, really? Okay, so that you came away instantly from that commercial thinking Miller and Coors Light corn syrup. They use corn syrup. And
it's a brilliant way of like tapping into a conversation already going on where corn syrup is bad.
Yep.
For a lot of people, and especially people who drink light beers. Now, not all of the target by any means.
Yeah.
But a good chunk of the people who drink light beer are doing it for, quote, health reasons, even though it's beer. And there's been enough conversation around corn syrup is not the best thing to be drinking or eating or, consuming, that it hit a nerve.
Yeah.
And it hit
so when you go down to in the grocery aisle and you see Budweiser, Coors Light, and Miller Lite all next to each other, it's going to stand out. Oh, wait. Okay. I remember. Corn syrup. Nope.
So the question is, does that keep a Coors Light? Does that make a Coors Light person switch? Like, we're talking persuasion influence.
Not necessarily.
So does it actually do its job? Or does it just make the current Bud Light fans more loyal?
Yeah, I would tend to think it would just make the people that are somewhat loyal or who do drink Budweiser continue. That just reaffirms that I'm doing the right thing. Right. That commitment and consistency.
Yeah.
I think that people that drink Coors or Miller that are hardcore, this is the only beer I drink. I don't think that's going to make them switch, because I'm not necessarily thinking, and it, could be wrong on some, but for the most part, I don't think the reason they drink those beers has anything to do with the fact that it's a healthier beer.
Right. The only one that does that, actually pushes that market, is the Michelob Ultra.
Ultra, yeah.
They push that. That's actually a Budweiser product, I believe.
Yep.
They're owned by AB.
Yeah, because it's low calorie, fewer carbs, obviously. So
I wonder if that particular product in their line would have been a better use of the corn syrup if they don't use it on that one.
Possibly.
So something to think about. We'll have to look at sale. We'll have to put a note on the calendar to look at sales 6 months or 9 months down the road and see, did that campaign matter? Because we'll know in 90 days with quarterly reports.
I think
they're
so.
A public company.
Right. How that...
we'll know if Bud Light increased or decreased because of the backlash. If all the corn farmers stopped drinking Bud Light, then...
I think they did a very good job of tying entertainment, the whole saga of them going over land and sea to get that corn syrup back. Yeah. They tied some entertaining aspects of that into something that you could definitely link, kind of those anchors that people, think in their mind. They link those anchors to corn syrup, getting the corn syrup back, Coors, Miller Lite.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really well done. So, one of the better ads I've seen in a long, long time. So what else you got? I've got a couple more that...
So another that stood out to me, and it was kind of compare and contrast, but the Pepsi is more than okay with Steve Carell. And so, I thought that they did a great job, because what are people prone to say when, you go to a store or you go to some venue, and a lot of people, I know you're a big Coke fan.
Right.
And I think Pepsi, in my mind, Pepsi's not something I would, if it's between Coke and Pepsi, I generally go Coke.
Yeah.
But a lot of places you go to, they will say, is Pepsi, we don't have Coke. Is Pepsi okay?
Yeah. So, the fact that they nailed that line.
Yeah.
And that, I think that was really good. That was the key to that commercial is
Pepsi okay? What are you talking about?
But you've heard that before. That's not some made up advertising thing. That is Pepsi okay.
Yeah.
Is something that waiters, servers, whatever they're called today.
Our babies, our babies, I forgot what the line was. Are babies okay?
And that's a good example. We've talked about this in the break for their advertising book about redefining.
Yes.
Right? So they redefined that word okay. Instead of it settling.
Right.
They totally redefined it.
Yep.
Which I think was just a few episodes ago we talked about redefinition.
Yep.
So that's kind of what they did with that phrase, is just totally redefine it.
Yeah, and I thought they did. To me, that was a kind of a compare and contrast where you can, you can do all you can go. Sometimes it's an uphill battle when you're facing, what people have kind of pigeonholed your product or your brand as. But sometimes you have to I think they did a great job of kind of embracing what a lot of people already kind of say, or the conversations that people are already having. Is Pepsi okay?
Yeah.
And they did a masterful job of saying, it is. And here's why. And
they did it without it being defensive.
Right. Exactly. They didn't come across as being very combative, against Coke or anything like that. It was a
defensive position, but they did it in a really strong way.
Yep.
So I thought that was good too.
Yep.
So one for me that stood out as far as getting my attention and getting curiosity up was the Washington Post ad. This was the one where they kind of like you didn't know what the commercial was for, until the very end.
Okay,
so they talked.
I might have missed this one.
Yeah, so they talked about it was a very like dramatic ad, almost like one of the motivational videos you might see on YouTube.
Right.
There's kind of the dark coloring and the sound, the theatrical sound behind it. But it was really paying homage to reporters who have been killed in the line of duty.
Okay.
So the imagery was real strong, you know, and the narration that was going on over the top of it was very patriotic. So I didn't know, like, is this going to be like a Jeep ad? Was this, and you didn't know till the very end that they were talking about the Washington Post. And that's where they lost me because, like, I just don't care. Right. I mean, that's not where I get my news anymore.
Right.
You know, I'm going to get my news online and probably not the Washington Post. Sure. I mean, I'm not a big news guy anyway.
Yeah.
So I wonder what they could have done different because they had my attention. And that's the thing that stood out about that ad is for a solid 20, 25 seconds, they had my attention because, and we talked about this before with the categorical imperative. Like if I know where you're going, I tune you out. But I didn't know where you were going or who you were, so I had to listen. So that kept my attention for that reason. But as far as me picking up a Washington Post or going to their website, it's not going to change anything. And really none of these ads actually changed what I'm going to buy from, you know, or anything like that.
Yeah.
With the exception of probably there's one that I'll talk about in a minute. But
okay.
What was your next one?
One that stood out to me was the Colgate Total ad with the close talker. Mm-hmm. So I don't know who that. I can't think of the actor's name, but he did it. I thought that was a fantastic job because I think one of the things is it paints a picture because we all talk to people that are close talkers. You know, they don't know they don't set boundaries in terms of personal space, and so. I think that hit home. And so using that analogy of people that usually talk to you way too close and using their product as a way to, overcome if you happen to be in those situations, I thought that was a pretty good job. It kind of made me, it was, to me, it was memorable. So
I agree it was memorable, and I agree that's a problem. Problem that I see from an advertising standpoint is it's not talking to me because that's not me.
No,
like even if it was
Yeah, you're right, and I'm thinking about that the whole time. It's talking to the person. You're not the one that has that problem.
Who's never going to use like
you're the one. You're the one that's saying. You're the one that's saying, "Hey, buddy, buy some Colgate."
I mean, if they had sample sizes that they wanted to promote and for me to hand out to my close talking friends, maybe that was a better angle, but. The close talker is never going to realize he's the close talker. He's just
They're oblivious. Yeah, exactly.
But it's funny you say that about that ad was memorable because I was over at a friend's house last night and I was helping them hang a TV on their wall. And they have a dog that's like 2 years old, German Shepherd, super friendly. And she actually said, if this dog was a person, it'd be a close talker. So it's
because it's all in your face. Yeah.
Because I was like, the parts were like right here on the table and the dog was just like up on top of the part, like knocking stuff over and stuff like that. But, I was like, that commercial stuck. Yeah. I'd not really heard that term before. So they've taken that and I'm sure maybe it's a term in offices. I don't work in an office. So, but they've kind of coined a phrase, and that's one of the things we talk about in advertising as well is can you coin a phrase that's memorable for people? Absolutely. But I think where they miss the mark is nobody's going to identify that they are the close talker. No. Everybody identifies, people but not that it's them, and the person buying the toothpaste is not going to identify.
You might want to keep some, like you said, you might want to keep some samples on hand to say, hey, buddy.
Yeah. Or a mint commercial maybe. Like the Listerine mints.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think this would have worked much better for something like mints, Altoids. Altoids. Like here you go, let me offer you something without being totally, I don't know how you go about that without being totally offending someone. Hey, try.
Well, I think the close talkers. I don't know that you can offend a close talker because they're just oblivious.
Right, exactly. They just keep going. Oh, thanks.
All right, so
but it was. I want to say that it was funny that says, the guy was like, there's no such thing as a too close of a talker, and he's the guy that's like the last guy that he's facing is like, yeah, you are, you are invading my personal space. Yeah, there is.
And that guy is, he's a B, a B level actor, but
yeah,
I know he was in like Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon.
Yep, that's it.
He was a boyfriend there, second boyfriend, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's been in a bunch of other stuff. But
yeah, you can recognize him, but
he's not an A-list where you know his name.
Right.
Or some people I'm sure do, but
yeah,
the two of us do not know his name.
No.
So, all right. So one that I thought was really good and in line with some other very successful ad campaigns of the past was the Stella Artois.
Yeah, that was good.
Where Carrie from, what's that, Sex and the City?
Yeah.
Right? Her character, basically, who always drinks Cosmopolitans, goes in and orders a Stella Artois. So I think that was a great, like, and the whole restaurant stops and like, oh, she's ordering what? And then the second person, all I can think of is
dude from
Tron and
dude from
like everything. Jeff Bridges
from
I think of him as the Tron guy.
I know, but I'm trying to think of the movie that it's like a cult classic. He plays the dude.
The dude, yeah. And that was the character that he was in that commercial too.
Yeah, yeah. Because he went to order a White Russian, and then he was like.
But yeah, so they took those two, characters and then flipped, and it was very much most interesting man in the world kind of take.
Yep.
I don't always, drink beer when I do, so it's kind of the same genre of ads where they say this is the exception type thing. So if you're ever going to bend the rules, you would bend it for this.
Exactly.
Which I think does talk to the market. Like that's like, okay, if people always do this, but this is worth trying, and it's not something that you do all the time. I think that really respects the viewer.
Right.
You're not saying you need to switch and this be your drink forever.
Yeah.
It's like, you may want to give this a try.
Right. Give it a try. If you can't have what you normally want, try it.
Or even just mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, give it a try.
So I
try
think
something different.
I think that's and in today's culture, where it's much harder to just kind of be in people's face and like demand that they try something, to give them that little subtle, hey, maybe give this a try.
Especially using a guy like Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Who's like, hey, man.
Yeah, so
dude.
So I thought that was one of the better ones.
Big Lebowski. That's
it. There you go. I thought that was one of the better. So those two. What else you got?
Let's see. I've got the Walmart grocery pickup.
Okay.
So
I've seen variations of that before the Super Bowl. Like, they've taken pieces of that.
Yeah, so I've seen snippets of this before, but I guess you could classify this as a Super Bowl because it did run during the Super Bowl ad. Yeah. But the pickup, Walmart obviously rebranding or redefining themselves now as, hey, you can, come and we can, you can come pick up your groceries, just pull into the parking spot. And so I thought they did a very creative job, using like the Ghostbusters,
Knight Rider,
Kit. The Bumblebee, the Transformer, the
Batmobile.
Yep, the Batmobile. Delanaga from, what is it?
DeLorean.
DeLorean from Back to the Future. Yep. So, yeah. But I think it just like they highlighted the fact that it's easy to go in, pick up your groceries, and they're delivered to you, and you're out of there. But,
which is ironic since let's see, two of the cars can drive themselves,
right?
Which I guess that's probably the future is delivery and send your car.
It's the future, Michael. And I remember that line. It's the future, Michael. And he's like, my name's not Michael. And he's like, that's okay. He calls everyone Michael.
Yeah, that was the best line for sure in that commercial. So, Night International 2000.
So I think what they're trying to rebrand or position themselves is like, this is the future. And they're not the first to the punch, but they have, we see grocery stores.
Does your wife use that, or do you use that?
We use it for Kroger.
Yeah, we do too.
So it's
not every time, but probably 50, 60% of the time.
I love it because you pull into the spot and they bring it out to you. And, if they have certain items, even if they don't have certain items that you order, they'll offer it a substitute. And if you don't want it, then they take it right off. So, but so, I mean, they're not the first to the punch, obviously. I don't know if they are the first to the punch, but they obviously did a great job of, branding themselves, as this is the way of the future. Come to us, order online. We'll deliver it right to you.
Yeah. So I'll give you my favorite lead generation ad.
Okay.
So this would be one that, step one in marketing, advertising is to get someone to go somewhere.
Right.
That first step.
Yep.
So to me, the lead gen, the ad that did the best job of getting you to take action, and maybe it was just me, I don't know, but it was Bumble.
Okay.
With Serena Williams.
Yep.
And a bunch of other female athletes.
I saw that. I
didn't know what it was.
Right.
And so I had to go look it up. Right. So there's that curiosity there. And apparently it's a huge social network already.
Right.
Like 45 million users or something.
Yeah.
Which is pretty big. I mean, it's not Facebook big, but 45 million is not a small number. You know? So once I found out what it is, like I wasn't interested because it's kind of geared toward women.
But it obviously got your attention.
So my wife was sitting there with me, and I was like, "What is that?" And I'm like, because it never really said what it was. So I said, "Well, look it up." And she looked it up in the App Store because it did say, I think it was an app. I think it said you can get it in the App Store. So she looked it up, and it's basically a networking thing. It's a networking site or a social media, a social site that it basically puts women in charge of the conversation. So like women have to either initiate, or women, like a guy cannot talk to one of the women without the woman like okaying the conversation, basically. So it puts the power back in the woman's hands.
Yeah.
So definitely
I'm not necessarily a big fan of the name, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Bumble. It makes me identify, or it sounds like fumble or bumble.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just kind of.
I think it's Bumblebee.
Okay.
As like a hive.
Oh,
and
okay.
Networking, and that's the idea because the colors are Bumblebee colors.
Oh, okay.
Yellow and black.
Yellow and black.
But definitely, I'm not the target market for that. But I did think they did a good job of generating enough curiosity that I would have to ask what it is and go look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the ad with Serena, and that was pretty. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty memorable, but I did not go to the website.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point, though. Most people that are watching, ads today, they have a smartphone.
Oh, in their hand.
So
while they're watching TV.
If you're a startup company, how big is that? I don't know do you know nowadays what the average for a 30-second spot is?
I think I read 5.2 million.
Okay. So
you need to have some deep pockets from investors or whatever. But even if, I think a good use of a Super Bowl ad today is to get people to go to your website, to download your app.
Right.
I think that's a better, like a next step instead of trying to convince somebody to switch brands.
Yeah.
Like, what's the next easy step you could get somebody to take? Whether it's
unless you're a brand like Budweiser, who's been around forever. You're an established brand, so all you're doing is like.
But couldn't they even take a more direct response approach and send you to like an ingredients
to show,
of all the different brands? Something like secretingredients.com or something like that, where they reveal the ingredients of all the different brands.
I think GoDaddy I don't see a lot of GoDaddy commercials anymore for Super Bowl, but back when they were first doing Super Bowl commercials, they did a pretty good job of getting people to go to GoDaddy.com to check out, because they would only give you a snippet, or they would tell you, if you want to see more of this commercial, go to GoDaddy.com and find out more. So,
yeah, they were ahead of the curve for sure. Because even when they first came out, like, smartphones weren't as big as they are now. I mean, now everybody is sitting there with a tablet or smartphone in their hand.
Ready.
So how do you, how do you get people to take that next step from TV, from one screen to another screen? Yeah. And, that's something that throughout history you've never been able to do before. Yeah. To, like, literally get somebody from screen to screen, or from screen to...
Yeah, I think that's an amazing advantage today, where people have the ability right at the present time to just go right there and download.
Absolutely. Any more? I got one more.
Let's see. I thought the spiked seltzer with the mermaids, do you remember that? I thought that was pretty interesting. Kind of using the Shark Tank with the actual sharks. Yeah. But them at the very end, I'm in. But it was kind of a unique. It was a unique product. I don't know, top of mind. It had some top of mind in terms of getting some attention. It was, alcoholic sparkling water, which is kind of different.
And sparkling water right now is a huge product.
It is.
It's the fastest.
So how do you
growing,
separate? Yeah,
it's the fastest growing beverage in the country right now is sparkling water. So to get the alcohol crowd, which was definitely present watching the Super Bowl, and mix that with the sparkling water crowd, I think that's good. It's I don't know who that market is. My guess is it's a female market. Sparkling water and sparkling seltzer, I think that's probably more of a female product. So I don't know how much that would hit them or not. I don't know.
Probably attracted, not for product reasons, but some males too for different reasons. Yeah, but yeah, it was top of mind, but it was also it was using some other memorable things, like big popular show, Shark Tank. Yeah, so they were incorporating some of that to kind of be memorable. Outside of that, unique and different, I can't see a whole lot of advantage to people, automatically just thinking, oh, okay, this is compared to what, people are drinking. I guess if you want to separate yourself from, like you said, there's so many different brands of sparkling water. Yeah. This is one unique way of saying, okay, well, we offer, we've got sparkling water, but with a little twang, little alcohol included.
Right.
So 0 calories, but you get the benefit of a little alcohol included. So
right. So the other one that jumped out at me, and I actually sat up and I was like, kind of in a joking manner, but was T-Mobile. Okay. And their Free Taco Tuesday. And
I must have missed that one.
Yeah. So they did several. So they had a series. I think they had 3 ads. And they all were like using the text bubbles on a phone and having conversations. And then they but then they would cut away at the end to, like one offer was, T-Mobile customers get free tacos on Tuesday. Sure. So when I first heard that, and I was like, that's worth switching. Yeah. Yeah. But I wasn't clear if they meant like every Tuesday or just the Tuesday after the Super Bowl. I think it was just the Tuesday after the Super Bowl. So that didn't even give me time to switch. Yeah. But it made me think, well, T-Mobile cares about their customers. Right. I mean, that was kind of the thought I had. But other than that, I thought the way they did the commercial was good with the text bubbles. It was cute and clever. And then, their branding was very strong with the pink and the... Sure. Like, that's T-Mobile when you see it. There's no doubt whose ad you're watching. But again, I guess the big takeaway for me
is a lot of companies waste a lot of money.
Yeah. And it's just like
I think that's the takeaway each and every year is big advertisers spend a ton of money for things that really, I think it's wasted money.
I think there's one other one. I think it was during the Super Bowl. The Kia, they launched their new car.
Yeah, and I remember that because I've got some Kia,
clients
that are Kia, and
Right.
I actually knew about that commercial before it even aired on Sunday because I had some clients that are OEMs of Kia that were actually telling me about it. They're like, "Yo, this is big for us."
They did a really good job of making that car look very desirable. And my wife did actually go look it up online. So that was another one where she went straight to the website and looked it up. And she's a person who likes like Porsche and Land Rover. And that's
because when you think quality, you're not thinking Kia. You're thinking affordability, and you're not.
And Hyundai had an ad too, and I know those are made basically on the same platform, same plant, or the same plant, or just right next to each other.
They're same plant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but that is that Korean car, the Hyundais and Kias. I mean, they do high quality for less money. So very first car we had when we got married was a Hyundai, but that was way before they were nice. That was when they were still kind of, people were like, I don't know.
Right.
Looks like a Yugo, or whatever. I don't know how to say that name.
Yeah.
So
they're known for affordability. I mean, it's a quality car too, but the main thing is affordability.
Yeah.
So,
but the fact that they're upping their game, and they did a very Land Rover that quality Jag. Even the feel of the cinematography was very much that higher end feel to it. So I thought they did a good job of that for sure. So,
and the elevator ad with was it Jason Bateman? That was pretty clever too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So I think that's all I had.
Yeah. I mean, we can go down the list, but I think I also loved from an entertainment alone standpoint, the NFL 100-year.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But that was entertainment alone. But I think the funniest part of that whole thing is, the ad is, they basically start playing football in the middle of it's a ceremony. Roger Goodell's up front and he's talking, and everybody's in their, their best dress, their suits and everything, and then all of a sudden a football game breaks out completely. But the best line is when, Tom Brady's like, "Hold my rings."
He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4.
He's like, take them off. He's like, "Get up there, old man. Up. Let me get my rings off. Here, hold these." Yeah,
that was good. But I gotta wonder, like, do you need to brand NFL in the middle of a Super Bowl?
You've got the Super Bowl going. I mean, do you need to spend any more money? I mean,
it seems like if you really wanted to make an impact there, you would feature one of their causes, or like their NFL Play 60, or one of the other causes.
Right, educating. Where they're educating the next generation of football. They're preparing the next generation of football players. Out on the field.
And they've got some incredible stuff going on in the NFL off the field.
Yeah,
it could have been a great, very motivational, emotional type. Little 30-second documentary of what players are doing off the field.
Yeah.
And, it was funny, it was humorous, but I don't know that
I think it was
really forwards the brand.
Yeah, I think what they were, I don't know what their intentions completely were, but I think probably what they did, they tied a lot of older, people that are years back that are probably may have been turned off from the NFL. They included a lot of players from, 30, 40 years ago in that, because I mean, you got to see in that little snippet, that commercial, you got to see a lot of players back from the 70s, 80s, 90s, Joe Montana's in it, so I think what they're trying to, I don't know if they're, and I don't know if this is the case, but maybe they were trying to help their brand a little bit that may have suffered over the last couple of years with the
I have heard that there's been declining
Yep.
viewership, and
Yep.
especially with a lot of the stand, don't stand flag scandals,
right.
national anthem stuff. So I know that has definitely turned some people off. But,
yeah.
Or maybe it's more, that's a big game, and there's going to be some non-regular.
Mm-hmm.
But then, are those people, the non-regular viewers, going to even know who those people are?
Right.
If they weren't, if they're not
exactly
football fans.
Exactly.
I'd be like, okay, who are all these old guys?
Yeah. Who's Barry Sanders?
That'd be like me watching an ad for soccer with players from like 80s and 90s. Like I would have no idea who they are.
And honestly, it makes me feel old too at the same time watching, like seeing some of these guys play. Like, I mean, some of these guys that were in there thinking, well, there's Barry Sanders and he's probably like 50 years old now. And like, I used to watch him, and thinking, oh man, okay, I'm old, older.
Yeah.
So, but it was entertaining, but I think my biggest takeaway outside of probably the Budweiser, it was, there's not too many commercials that I can say that probably stood out in terms of really, separating themselves. That was, it's funny you mentioned the Budweiser because that was at the top of my list. So
yeah, and they've done a good job of building up to that.
Yeah.
By making that character
medieval. Yeah.
I mean, that character's been going on for 6 months or 9 months now.
They also probably got paid a whole lot of money from Game of Thrones, to advertise the upcoming, the next season of Game of Thrones is coming up using that. A
little crossover marketing there, or what do they call that? Yeah, it's
cross promotion. Yeah. So it was interesting. Like I said, it's always fun. It's always entertaining to watch.
Yep.
But as people that are, obviously that pay a lot of attention to marketing and advertising, we're thinking, okay, it's a lot of money
and
that could be used in a much better way, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So if you're going to persuade, and if your job is to persuade and influence,
right,
you've got a sound going off in the background. So
it's a Skype call coming in.
Skype call coming in.
There's no one there.
So if you're going to try to persuade and influence, that's the difference between persuasion, influence, and branding.
Yeah.
And branding does have a place. Like, I'm not one of those diehard direct response guys who thinks branding has no place.
Right.
Like, you can literally put branding or goodwill, as it's called, on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And up the valuation of a company significantly with goodwill. Coke is a great example of that. Coca-Cola. They have a line item on their balance sheet for goodwill. Yeah. Which is just branding. Yeah. And you can set yourself apart with good branding. So it's not that it's not important. It's, what's the cost? And it's pretty much a big company play. Yeah. They put in all the sweat equity and they're established. Budweiser, Coke, Pepsi, all of these companies. And these companies have marketing budgets that are bigger than the total valuation of other companies. It's funny, my son actually mentioned a YouTuber that was planning a 30-second commercial during the Super Bowl to promote. And I told my son, we were watching it, and I never saw the commercial. But he had, I guess he was putting it out there that he was going to be running an ad, so he got a lot of attention off of not even having an ad on the Super Bowl. Renegade. Yeah, right. Arbitrage. I like that. Right. Yeah, that's good. May have to use that for a couple of companies then. That'd be a good way to go. Right. So, all right. Well, everyone, thanks for listening again. You can find us again, persuasionbythepint.com. And we appreciate it. Again, our beverage of the week, Budweiser, the Budweiser Jim Beam Copper Lager. Copper Lager. You can find it in any of your... wherever beer is sold. Yeah, wherever fine beers, or not even fine beers, but normal beers are sold. Big beers sold. Thanks again for listening. Have a great week. Thanks.